Welcome to Love Where You Live, a space dedicated to exploring what it truly means to build a life you love, starting with the spaces we inhabit. I'm your host, Alyssa Salato. As a real estate agent and former dietitian and wellness coach, I look at home as so much more than just a physical address. It's the foundation for our daily lives, where our physical environments, our communities, and our overall well-being converge. Whether you're navigating a major life transition, creating a physical sanctuary within your four walls, or looking for ways to bring more alignment into your day-to-day, you are in the right place. Are you ready? Let's go. I am in the studio today with Grace Cox. Grace Cox is a pianist, violinist, wife, mother of 5, and most of all, a lifelong learner. She currently teaches piano and violin lessons to 25 kids and adults, and recently began teaching early childhood music classes. She is also the administrative assistant for the cantata singers. Did I say that right, Grace?
Mm-hmm.
When she's not answering thousands of questions from her kids, you're likely to find her reading a book or baking something delicious. Welcome, Grace. Thank you so much. I am thrilled to have you here.
Glad to be here.
And I really wanted to start off with the bio that you provided me with, because I thought that was the sweetest little bio ever. It made me smile hearing about how, you're teaching kids violin and piano. Perhaps that's very near and dear to me because my oldest had started learning violin this year, and I grew up playing the piano. So both instruments I just love. And then hearing about how you're either likely to be reading a book or baking something delicious both brought a smile to my face when you're not being bogged down by so many questions from your kids. What do you like to read, Grace?
I love to read memoir and like contemporary fiction, and then nonfiction in my kind of niche areas of interest, which is wide and varied.
Well, a lifelong learner, right? So I would imagine that you can probably just go wherever the wind blows you.
Yep. Follow the interests.
What are you reading right now?
I am reading a novel by Frederick Bachman called My Friends, and a children's How Children Learn Music by Eric Bluestein, and that's the way that I teach music. This is a book that's kind of a summary of that theory. Yeah, I'm sure I've got something else, but those are the ones that come to mind.
Can you tell me how children learn music? I legitimately want to know.
Yeah, so there's a process that gets developed, which is called audiation, which is thinking in music. So just as thought is to language, the same way audiation is to music. So it's not just like having an earworm, it's also that internal understanding of the music, which you may or may not have like labels to put with it at first, but it's helpful to then learn those labels. Like that's obviously what we can do in music lessons and music classes, but we don't want to jump to the labels before we first provide acculturation. So just like kids are surrounded by language and language interactions every day, like almost constantly.
Yeah.
The ability to surround them with music and have musical interactions with them is like super powerful for both developing their aptitude, which is in fluctuation until age 9. And then also for like helping them begin to internalize the understanding of music. So that's kind of a flyover.
What would be an example of a label? I'm not sure I'm understanding you very well there.
Yeah. So if you hear bum 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 bum, that's a major chord, but you may like internally recognize that sound and not have the label major to go with it, but you may internally understand that that's a different sound than da 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 bum 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 bum. minor chord. You might internally understand that there's a difference, and then it's helpful to then know, oh, that sound quality is major, that sound quality is minor. Those labels can then help you recreate those sounds if you want to create your own music, which is something that I've shifted into really strongly with my students over the last couple of years since I discovered this theory, is that all of my students were constantly improvising and creating, not just learning other people's compositions, which tend to be, and it's beautiful music, but it tend to be from hundreds of years ago, not like a lot of the
Yeah.
classical repertoire, beautiful music. And we want to learn the full breadth of the repertoire and create our own musical ideas. So.
Oh, that excites me. I
Yeah.
am looking forward to learning more from you about that someday, because it is on my list of things to do in my adulthood to rekindle my learning of piano,
Yeah.
because I think how I had learned as a kid was just, like you said, replay this composition. And
Yeah.
it's wonderfully fun. I mean, you may know this already because you were posting some videos to your social of you playing the piano, and it just made me
Yeah.
feel so happy to see your fingers moving. And I love that feeling. Love it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I think that it's also especially fun, or could be fun, if you know exactly what you really truly are doing and not just
Yeah.
repeating something.
Yeah.
And then how about, what is it that you love to bake? Tell me some more about that.
Oh, that's a good question. When I used to have more time, I would love to do things like making my own pie crusts and baking pies, um, cookies. Not so much into cakes, so like the cookies
Hmm.
and like uh, streusel type stuff, and a good like coffee cake or cobbler, or just like all the things. I love doing
You are
apple
making me
stuff in the
hungry.
fall. I know, I know. I could just bake and bake and bake, but yeah, usually like pumpkin bread and
Yum,
cookies
yum,
and
yum.
stuff like that.
We just got a bunch of peaches yesterday, and I mean,
The
we could
best.
devour them on their own, but there are just so many where you said cobbler, and I'm like, I think I need to make a
Yeah,
peach cobbler later on today.
yeah. We discovered a no-bake peach dessert last year that is to die for. It's like a peach layer and then like a cream cheese whipped cream layer, and then you have like a graham crackler buttery crumble on the top. It's really good. So that one's not baking, but it is, yeah, sweets.
Yeah, yes, delicious things to eat. And when you say delicious things to eat, that instantly brings me to exactly what we are talking about today, and that is building community right in your neighborhood. And the reason that makes me like, eating delicious things makes me think of building community is because, in my opinion, I think that there's nothing better than being able to share delicious things with other people. So, um, on that note, how shall we dive into this exciting topic of building community within the very neighborhood that you live? What inspired and motivated you to explore building community right within your neighborhood?
About 7 or 8 years ago, I read a couple of books, and the one that stands out is This Is Where You Belong by Melody Warnick. And it inspired some ideas about how to connect with my neighborhood. And there are some other things going on in life that really I wanted to be able to have people at my own home and ways that I could connect with our actual neighbors. So my husband Mark and I, we started a weekly dinner. I don't know if we did it weekly at first, but it morphed into every week, every Thursday. Um, we would invite all our neighbors over, and it was fluid. Like at the beginning, I did. Speaking of delicious things, I made little mini loaves of pumpkin bread, I think it was,
Yum.
and took one to like all the neighbors that I could see from my property. That was kind of my little uh, zone that I was working with, and connected with them. And then over time, we kind of grew to know which ones were interested in continuing to receive invites. We
Oh,
had these old chalkboards, and propped them up outside our house, and every week, they were like big slate chalkboards, so they could just stay there. And every
Right.
week I would write neighborhood dinner, Thursday, 5 p.m., maybe like 5 days. You could come anytime during the evening. And then I would
I
write what we
love
were
that.
having. What we were having was very
Oh my
influential.
gosh.
I learned, for whatever reason, whenever I would have chili, everyone did not show up. I was like,
Really?
I think people are opinionated about how chili should be. And the
That
chili
gives
I
me
made.
actually a great idea. If you don't mind, I interrupt. Why not a
Yeah,
chili cook-off? A little
exactly, right?
competition.
Right? Instead of being like, I'm only providing the chili, how about you all provide the chili?
Yeah.
But we also, like, I also made sure it was very friendly to different kinds of diets and stuff like that, and grew to know like
Hmm.
people's dietary sensitivities and stuff. And a lot of the times, the thing that would work best is like a salad bar or a taco bar or something that everybody could assemble themselves. Um, and, people might bring something or they might not. I also made a point. So besides our neighbors, made a point. We were in a church at that time, and I would text the folks that lived alone. And that was like our little another kind of zone that we were in. Like, hey, come on over for dinner.
Hmm.
And those were just the best nights of the week. And we still we're not in that home anymore, and not in a space right this minute to be doing that. But those we still have friends that we talk to that are like, I miss Thursday dinner. And it was really special. Um,
Aw,
yeah. And throughout
that
that,
makes
just
me
like
so happy to hear.
yeah, so throughout that, the ability to just connect and have a no agenda gathering. Like we weren't
Hmm.
accomplishing anything. We weren't, obviously selling anything, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
wasn't agenda driven. It was just, we're just here to hang out together
I
because
love
we
it.
need to spend time with each other as humans. And the conversations would take all sorts of interesting directions, and it was great. It's obviously dependent on whoever was there. There was one time we had um, a squirrel's nest in our tree out back,
Hmm.
and our friend who is a vet just happened to be there that day. And the mama squirrel must have gotten injured or something because the baby squirrel started crawling out of the nest, and it was like 30 or 40 feet up and dropping down to the ground. And we were like sitting right in this area, and we were able to we rescued a couple of them, and then one of them didn't make it. But then the other one we were able to get to a rehabber and get it
Oh
like
my
back
goodness.
health. And if we didn't have, our friends there just helping out, we ended up somebody climbed up to check if there were any more and all this. And it
Good
was
thing
just,
I wasn't there. I would tell you, forget it. Those squirrels. I got a vendetta against squirrels.
I was like, what is the baby? So it was sweet. And once we got it to the rehabber, it's like, it's in good hands. But
Yeah.
just having like our veterinarian friend there, it's like, okay,
All
like
right.
this
All sorts of
just
magic
group.
happened.
Right. Different combos, different skills. Um, yeah, it was really special. And we didn't have like a one big dining area. We lived in an old house that was very sectioned off. Um, so we got creative and put some seating out in like our sunroom that was between the garage and the house. And then we would put a heater out there in the winter and start it a couple hours early, and like get really creative. Some people would sit and eat in the living room. Um, yeah, we would get very creative to make space. We didn't have any one space that could seat more than like 6 people, maybe.
Hmm.
And then in the summer, certainly we would just go eat outside and,
Right.
have that
Outdoor.
option as well.
You have my brain exploding with excitement because um, years ago, my cousin and my sister and I, this was like just following the pandemic. So
Mm,
life was not quite normal as we
yeah,
had known it yet. And so Friday nights we would get together and cook a meal together. And we didn't even say like, oh, you're going to handle this, you're going to handle that. It was like, bring whatever you want. Let's see what happens. And
yeah,
so we ended up calling it Friday Feast. And the reason I bring this up, of course, is because it sounds pretty similar to your
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood dinners on Thursday evenings. And then I'm hearing you say that your neighbors have said that they miss Thursday dinners. It makes me believe that this is really something that people do want, to have no agenda, to just connect. You said we need to spend time with each other as humans. And hello, making meals of any kind, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, is so much work. Wouldn't it just be so much easier if I handle this one thing, you handle that one thing? Together, we will create a feast.
Yeah. And usually have leftovers, and then we'll all have some food for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Something else.
it makes a meal more of an event than just, oh, we gotta eat.
Yep. And something about sharing a meal together is it's very communal. It's very connective. You know, it's obviously there's a beautiful way of supporting people by dropping off meals. Like there are times that that's really the most helpful. But it kind of positions us very mutually when we're just sitting across the table from each other sharing a meal. And that, I think, is some of the power of doing meals together. Another thing that I've done in the past that has been a cool way to kind of share that burden is do a freezer meal prep party. And sometimes it would be for someone particular. I personally, like, single-handedly made 32 or 42 frozen meals before I delivered my first baby. And
What?
I didn't nest any other way that I remember, but that project, like, I had my spreadsheet, I had my, itemized grocery list. I think I might have had the cost. I had a rating system for how good the meal ended up being. I was very type A
Wow.
about it.
You are very organized.
Yeah, well, at least I was. I had more energy to put towards it then. And the night that I finished that project, I went into labor.
Isn't that hilarious how delivering a baby works?
Yes.
You
Yes.
are reminding me that I think I was cleaning blinds in the floor the day that I went into labor.
Yep. Amy needs a clean nest. But I had other times where I would do this communally with some friends, and we would sometimes I would do the shopping, sometimes we'd split it up. If I do the shopping, I would just split up the cost if we were going to split up the meals. So, like, if we were going to make, 20 meals and everyone was going to take 5, we'd split up the cost 4 ways or something like that. But then you can do these big batches, and there's a lot of recipes out there. So another way of, like, doing something that really benefits everybody and just does cut down on the stress of coming up with what to make for dinner for the rest of our lives.
Seriously. I mean, it just makes me think when I was working in nutrition and wellness, and that is the biggest thing that it's such I'm at a loss for words for it right now.
Like the decision fatigue, or
it's the fact that we do have to know what we are making to eat, or what are we going to eat every single day.
Yeah.
And it's a real challenge in adulthood. And something that, I come from a family where we cook primarily from scratch. We have a garden, and even like within my extended family, my cousins, we in our adulthood now are like, oh, there are people that don't cook, like something that we have learned. It like is surprising to us. But as I now work in real estate, I understand that so much more now because, oh my goodness gracious, I don't have enough hours in the day, and it's like 5 o'clock, and I'm like, are we okay to just grab whatever we can find?
Right. Yeah, and there's so many different kinds of lives that people are living, and that sometimes it's
exactly
what they want to be doing, sometimes it's not, just the circumstantial stresses and all of that. So
yeah, that's a good point. To is it something that you want to do or not? Either are okay.
When we moved away from that house and moved here to Elmira, the This Is Where You Belong book was very fresh in my mind. And one thing she talked about was like keeping track of your, when you meet the neighbors, like writing down their names. So again, on the organization thing, I created a spreadsheet and I was like, all right, I'm going to write this stuff down. And I still do it to this day when someone new moves in or we meet someone from a little farther out. And we live on this cute little horseshoe road. So it's very easy. I mean, I forget what the number is, but it's, maybe 20 homes or something. And it's very easy to just kind of have that definitive, like, this is our neighborhood, because it's this very contained space, really. So yeah, just going around, I think we just walked around and I literally just took one of those little yellow notepads and I wrote a little note on it. Hey, we just moved into the neighborhood and we're, so looking forward to meeting everybody. And then I wrote, this is one thing that I think was really helpful, is that I was proactive to get everybody else my contact information. So like, here's my cell phone, here's my husband's cell phone, obviously checked with him. And then like, here's our kids' names, and you can look me up on Facebook, stuff like that, where they know, like, I made it obvious that I am welcoming interactions. And I think there is this fear nowadays that maybe people don't want interactions, and certainly there can be situations where it's like, I'd rather not. That's fine. But I think too often jump to the conclusion that people want to be isolated or maybe in their current groups.
Right.
That's fine. It doesn't actually preclude the option of building more community or different kinds of community. Yeah, we don't have to be our neighbor's best friend per se. Like that there's also room for that to develop. One of my really dear friends is my neighbor kitty corner from where I used to live, and we're still incredibly close to that range of being open to whatever develops. So being proactive with giving out my contact information, I think, was really helpful. And I just I don't think I even took anything. I don't remember if I baked anything or whatever, but just taking a little note over to all of the neighbors on our street made, I think, a really big difference, because then there's a connection. And then as I interacted personally, some people I just left the note in the door, but if they were there and we could connect, I was literally, as I walked away from their house, I'd pull out my little spreadsheet and be like, this was their name. This is their dog's name. Here's what we talked about, and just like something to kind of start. And it can feel, I think sometimes I'd be like, is this weird and impersonal, to be talking? Like, it's literally facilitating connection for me. It's helping me not lose track of these details. Obviously, can ask somebody's name again. I've done that multiple times.
Right.
Keeping track, we have our two people named Judy and two people named Connie, and it's like, you figure it all out, and then it's fun to tell the kids, like, we talk about all our neighbors by name, and like, oh, did you see Mr. Reggie's doing another project, and having that, like, getting that sense for the personalities of everybody around. And I can be the nosy neighbor with the best. And what are they doing? Oh, there's an appliance being delivered today. It's just fun to see, what's going on in the neighborhood and looking out for each other. If we need help with something, or something comes up where we're like, we need help. Finding. If a kid just ran off, we're like, can you? Okay, need more hands and more help. Everybody's been so supportive and looking out for each other. And I think again it's kind of addressing this fear of like assuming that maybe we're not on each other's side. Like, I think there can be this fear of like of judgment. And some people are judgy. Okay. Like, it's gonna happen sometimes, but I think by and large we're just all doing our best, and most people aren't judging our best. And we can kind of, I've found that we can soothe that fear by making more personal connections and by actually talking with people, having that connection. Just the other day, our next door neighbor, she was mowing her lawn, and I noticed a couple of my kids had gone over there, and usually they're, we have to ask and stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they were holding some little flags. We're helping Miss Judy put these back in after she mows. I was like, that's so cool. Hey, just touching bases, everything good. Just like, Yeah,
So
Sierra
cute.
just said the sweetest thing. She said, I'm gonna have. I told my kids that once they have grandbabies, I'm gonna move to where they are because I want to, I want to be around my grandchildren. And Sierra goes, well, until you do, we can be your grandchildren. Like, that's very sweet, and just that sense of, again, not putting boxes on how we can connect before we explore what's possible.
Yeah. Wow. That was incredible. All of what you just said. One thing I'll start off by saying is, and I will say this, I have said it multiple times now, but I think that I'm going to continue to say it over and over again because it's something that I learned over the past year or so, and it's that people are people. I
Yeah.
think we do get afraid of what somebody else might think, or, we may think that somebody else would rather just keep to themselves. And I don't know, maybe it's because there is particular messaging about that. I've passed by signs outside of people's doors that say, go away. Like it's
Uh-huh.
supposed to seem like a little bit quirky and silly, but it's also very repelling, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
want you here at my house, And I mean, again, like you said, like if you want that and you're happy,
Yeah.
like that makes you happy,
Yeah.
fine. But I think maybe by seeing some of those messages, maybe that does make uh people feel like, oh, everybody just wants to stick to themselves. And also with the modern era that we are in, where life is becoming so virtual, like
Yes.
you engage with people in a virtual way. We're not even sitting in the same room right now, Grace.
Thankfully, we have engaged in real life, so it's not quite as
Yes.
quite as
Yes.
impersonal.
But yeah, I will just keep saying people are people. We
Yeah.
are all here to go through our own unique experiences, learn, heal, grow, repeat all over again.
Yeah. I have a thought on like the social media and the modern era thing. Is that it's it feels like a double-edged sword in terms of finding community online. There is so much validation for finding community
Yes.
online that allows you to connect with people experiencing things that you haven't seen reflected in the people right around you. Whether that's
100%.
neurodivergent community, whether that's a particular parenting struggle or whatever the case may be. But it does allow us to really niche down and only interact with certain elements of people,
Mhm.
and it reduces um I've heard someone say recently, it takes a lot of friction out of our lives because we're
Oh,
interacting with people like us, and we're interacting in just specific ways. Now that's not how everyone uses social media, but that's one way that I think can
oh, it can
happen.
certainly apply. I see that. Yeah.
Again, great for validation for when you felt alone. I think connecting in person, it does require this openness, and it does require the willingness to engage with the whole of a person instead of just this behind the screen, segment of a human being. And as we all see, like it can go so nasty sometimes, and it's a lot harder. It should hopefully be a lot harder to like be nasty to somebody's face because you're confronted with the
Right.
fact that you're standing in front of a real person. So this is something that I'm sure you've noticed as well, and that is the Facebook groups or the social media groups about our local area. So it is like people that we are technically neighbors with,
Hmm.
but they can get really nasty online, and there can be this really, negative turn that it takes, which makes me think,
Yes.
where's where's the right place and way for us to hear each other out and address the challenges that are there, because we don't need to brush them under the rug, but at the same
Hmm.
time not contribute to the problem and not contribute to divisiveness. um
Right. Right.
and yeah, just it's a lot. It, it should be a lot harder to say those things in person and be attacking the person instead of the problem. That's a parenting strategy that has been really helpful, is like, how can we be together Like, it's not you against me, it's us against the problem. How can we do that on a
Right.
community
Yeah,
level?
to depersonalize it and come to a compromise,
Yeah.
find a solution together. I was thinking about that before we met today, thinking about, what's on my mind is addressing a problem. We're not here trying to look at life through rose-colored glasses.
Mhm.
Problems happen. That is part of life, and that's going to happen within relationships. And it's a matter of addressing it productively
Mhm.
versus just, oh, I hate how this feels, or I hate what this is. I hate this. I hate that. Because what is really going to get us to that solution?
Yeah. Yeah. I was noticing a post about the funding recently secured for the Eldridge Park skate park. And then
Mhm.
everyone like, "Oh, well, what, the funny really, what if you," and all the things that you could say, and it's like, at the end of the day, someone worked really hard, probably a team of people worked really hard to get that funding. That funding is coming to our area. That funding is going to further work for people in our area, active options, like, naysay all you want, but if you're not gonna get off your butt and do something
Yeah,
about it,
yeah.
like just don't, like, if you want to then, if you then go, oh, it shouldn't have gone towards this, it should have gone towards this, you could then take the time, that the time spent naysaying, can you take that time and be proactive in some way? And if not, like, if that's too much of a reach or a stretch to do something on that scale,
Mhm.
just scale it back to what we can do. And I think that's the
Yes,
challenge
yes.
again with being on social media, is that it can start to feel so I'm not going to say it's
Massive?
not real, because
Mm.
absolutely it's real. What word did
I
you
said
use?
I asked massive. I'm
No, I'm
thinking
thinking more
overwhelming.
like,
No.
I'm online and I'm making a difference by saying all this negative stuff, or it's kind of scratches some itch in terms of like
I'm expressing my
impact.
thoughts and opinions on it.
Yeah, and just going, okay, everyone's thoughts and opinions count. Is this the forum that's actually going to do anything, where that energy actually
Yeah.
has somewhere productive to go? Um, but it's so accessible. Again,
Mhm.
there's so little friction. We just pick up our phone and hop into that, buzzing discussion. Whereas if we were to get up and walk out and improve our neighborhood somehow, um, it's a different level of effort. But if we can't, like, I don't have the bandwidth right now to get involved with like city planning meetings or whatever. I am not in that
Yeah.
space. But can I consider how I can add to my neighborhood? Absolutely. I bought a picnic table to put in the front yard. Cool. It is
Yes.
now a prime place for hanging out. Like, I'm
Yes.
not saying it's necessarily made it that way yet, but like, it's ripe for facilitating interactions. I was talking with a friend of mine who he enjoys landscaping and planting a lot of like perennial plants, and I had him over to talk about our yard, and we had a really really great conversation. He brings a lot of knowledge, and he was saying our grass and the street are right there. There's no sidewalk or anything, so it's just
Mm.
the road, yard.
Mhm.
And he was pointing out at the edge of the road, like, if you wanted some privacy, like, you could do this and that. I was like, nope, don't want privacy in this spot. We've got our backyard or whatever, but right here,
Mhm.
this is the spot to hang out. I want our neighbors to walk right onto our lawn when they're walking around. And again, we don't have. That is not the only way to build community or be neighborly. But
That's
if
your
no,
way, right? And
that's my way.
that's the beauty in it.
Yes, we can all have different ways of doing that. And that, again, just being clear with that. So sometimes when we see somebody taking a walk, we'll just make sure to pop our heads up and be like, "Hi, so and so," And um, one place where we lived, there were some neighbors, Tom and Margie, who walked their dogs, and we could see, we had a window that was towards their house, and we could see them coming, and we had enough time to all get out there and run down to the road and pet the dogs if they, one of them was not so friendly. but just having a chance to chat and catch up, and it becomes
Right.
really, really meaningful to have those everyday connections and the regularity. That's another piece of like the Friday feast where it's every Friday and our Thursday dinners, which are every Thursday. There's something about a regularity and a predictability that,
Something to look forward to.
yeah. And to just, oh, we're not saying, oh, when can you meet, like a month out
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just, we do this every week. We
Trying
got
to
to eat.
schedule something. Oh,
Yeah.
today's not working out, right? Like,
Yeah.
no, it's happening today and next
Right.
week and next week.
Right. And to then, if you miss a week, it's not like you miss out on all the connection opportunities. You're going to come back next
Yeah.
week if you have the time.
Yeah.
We even had during the Thursday dinners time, we were going out of town for a while. And we had a friend who said, "I just can't imagine my week without Thursday dinners. If
Aw.
we if we do the setup and stuff, can we have it in your driveway?" So they did a Thursday
Your house
dinner.
was the place.
Yeah, exactly. And and again, I'm like, that's what I want my house to be, is a place of welcoming and belonging. And it was just so sweet. They sent us pictures like, here we are having our dinner. But that just meant so much to me because we literally didn't have to do anything, but it still
Yeah.
like
It's stuck.
facilitated this ongoing consistency of connecting as a community.
That is so inspiring. And I want to go back to something that you said earlier. You mentioned, maybe you don't have the capacity to get involved in city planning or something, but maybe you can do this thing at your home. What can you do to create a positive impact? And I find that is so valuable. And one of the reasons that has been in my brain as it relates to this Love Where You Live podcast, because yes, we all want to live in our ideal, happy world. How do we create that? We don't create it by saying, this is meh, and I don't like this, and, pouting.
Yeah.
That was the image that I had gotten when you were talking about the naysayers.
Yeah.
It's really just a form of pouting.
Yeah.
So how I think it is worth acknowledging the the disliking to whatever somebody is experiencing. That is okay. It's what are you going to do about it? Like you said,
Right.
what can you do about it?
Right. Yeah. Putting our energy towards something positive and getting creative with that. I mean, so some of my thoughts on that are that, again, repeated connections with the same community are really meaningful. Um, so for me, connecting with my actual neighbors right here, that's something that I just know is a priority. So like
Hmm.
having enough time to just take a walk, and there's time to just stop and chat like that. I that's important to me. Um, plugging in, so you could have like, oh, I'm going to plug in at the school and just kind of, I love Kendra Adachi's podcast, The Lazy Genius.
Okay.
And one of her principles, she has the Lazy Genius principles. And one of those is to have decide once items in your life. So you decide ahead of time that that's how it's going to be. So for me, like if a neighbor is walking by, saying hi, connecting if there is opportunity and time. I've already decided that's something I'm going to do. Like I don't remake that decision every time.
Hmm. You don't overthink it.
Right.
Is that another way to say it?
If exactly. If someone
Yeah.
new moves into the neighborhood, I'm going to go over and introduce myself. That's not a question of am I going to or am I not? So it could be like if I'm going to plug in just to the school community, it could be a decide once of I'm going to show up for every school event that the PTA is putting on. Like you could just, obviously there can be conflicts or whatever, but if you've already decided that that's a priority, you can then lean in with that community because that repeated connection is so powerful. I think of
Well, that's
another.
interesting. That makes me wonder because I think I have a challenge with saying yes to certain things like, oh, I want to do this,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, and is it a a struggle with commitment or just not actually making the decision. So I'm asking, honestly, even for myself personally, I'm sure somebody else would relate to this, but like you said, the school stuff, I think I tried a PTA meeting at one time in my life, and I think maybe it just wasn't working out, and so I just I just disappeared. But was that had I made a decision, or was it just something I was dabbling in?
Right. And I think we don't need to contort ourselves to end up putting our energy towards something that doesn't align that well. I think we can then find oh, sometimes it's when we're not looking, but we can find those areas where it's this actually, maybe it's a group that's already in existence that we realize, oh, this really aligns with what I need or where I am or how I can contribute. I think of the Playroom, which is one place that we met at the Elmira Family Resource Center. I think of it as a community because as I started going there, I had just had my 5th kid, and I was drowning. I was very overwhelmed, and there wasn't really anywhere that I could take my kids on my own besides the Family Resource Center. When I found that, I was like, oh my goodness, people that get where I'm coming from, people that are going to chip in and lend a hand. That was so meaningful. And so that was my go-to spot. I didn't try to do any other outings. And that allowed such a more significant connection. And now being in a different stage of life and still taking my kids there occasionally, but also doing a music play class. I'm I feel like I have this space now where I can give back in some ways. I didn't have that bandwidth before, and that's okay. But showing up doesn't need to mean having bandwidth to make some, astronomical contribution.
Yeah.
It can just be, I'm showing up because I value this group of people and I want to be a part of it. It doesn't have to mean being on the board. It can be just, I'm going to come to the things that the board puts on or whatever.
Being present there.
Yeah, for sure.
There's another thing that's on the tip of my tongue. When you're speaking, I'm thinking of it. I'm like, I don't want to forget it. I should have written it down. Oh, it's not there right now.
I can tell you my massive brainstorm that if I had all the time in the world that I would want to do.
Tell me about it. Your massive brainstorm. If you had all the time,
I have a Google Doc for it and everything, of course. I don't know. I should pull it up and see what I called it.
I love how you are a great example of what organization truly is.
Okay, so my Google Doc title is Elmira Beautification Initiative, or it could be Elmira Front Yard Initiative. And my concept is that because I think of myself in my own home. I admire, oh my goodness, I have neighbors who are retired, multiple neighbors, and they keep their spaces and their lawns so beautiful and immaculate and all of that. I know I'm not in a stage of life to do that, but I also there's a bit of man, if I had a bit more, whether it's resources or time or just knowledge, someone with knowledge, which is why I invited my friend over who knows a lot about plants and stuff like that. I could make my front yard look more appealing. And then I drive down the blocks where there's a lot of just eyesores, I guess, for lack of a better reason. And I go,
okay,
no one is intentionally choosing, oh, I want my house to not, look good from the front or whatever. No, folks are struggling, right? And we can I have my own struggle bus that I'm on. I don't
taking care of a house is a lot of work.
Yes. So I'm in this space where I'm what does it look like? Because as a town, as a community, how we appear from the street matters. That's it impacts me when I drive through, and it's especially towards the end of winter when everything looks really grungy and everything's dead.
Brown and
Everything's got
gray.
salt and dirt on it. But it affects me too. I'm driving through, I'm like, ugh, ugh. You know, once the spring comes, you know, you get up, you know, you drive up and can look across the valleys and stuff. It's, yeah, it all goes away. But there's still this sense in me that I go, well, people need help sometimes, and it benefits us as an entire community. So my concept is that I've got this whole notes thing. It's like 2 pages
I'm
long.
so excited to hear this.
Is that you have a block, and the block has to buy in. So you have to have maybe a certain percentage of participating homeowners / landlords. And you would want the area to be somewhat visible in terms of like it's a street that people go down pretty regularly, at least initially, as the project gets underway.
Yeah.
I think a good way of doing it is that blocks can nominate themselves. It probably would need to be like under so I write grants for the cantata singers, the choir that I work for. So obviously I've got like grant ideas in my mind for how to do this. So it would probably be good to do in coordination with one of the local organizations that works on our communities, right?
Okay.
So a block could nominate themselves, and then there's some kind of selection process based on the percentage of the participating homeowners. And then there's a either Saturday or maybe a weekend where it's kind of like a block party for that block, and every volunteers are coming out, but they're also through the grant funding, you've hired landscapers, and you have a couple key low maintenance landscape options that you put in. And I haven't entirely thought through all of the details about like would it be up to just the landscapers, and like as the homeowner you're just like, yeah, this, you know, you got 3 choices, and be like, I'll take these 2 in my, you know, in front of my house, something like that. You have to keep it, you can't overcomplicate it or else it
start with something simple.
Right.
Do you mean like installing a bush, or just something like a tree, just something simple like that?
And I think there would be some, so I my husband Mark knows like a gal who runs a landscape company. So I think there would be a lot of value in having some first, even before running one of these at all, because I envision it as a once or twice a year thing. Before envisioning it or before running it, having a landscape designer come out and just survey, it could be the block, it could just be the city in general, and just be like, all right, what thrives well in this area, what's low maintenance, and what would be just good as far as visual. And
native
then,
plants.
Kind of filter that into the planning. And maybe then so I'd written down, landscape designer comes out ahead of time and designs the whole block using low maintenance, high visual impact designs or plants or whatever the case may be. And you know,
is there a landscaper listening?
Right.
Does this speak to you?
And I don't know all the, you know, what it comes down to, like rock versus wood chips versus all this. And again, what is the most low maintenance that's going to have the most staying power? Because the goal is not something to put in something that looks flashy right away, but then has to require these many, many hours of upkeep per year.
It's a baby step. Imagine like what you're seeing, you know, house beautifully manicured is all the way up here, but it doesn't just happen like that overnight. Maybe if you have the means to hire a landscaper and do that, then yes, maybe it can, but ultimately you are going to start somewhere and work your way up.
Right.
I think that I see that, because just not too many years ago, I told him, I was telling people that I have a black thumb. I could not keep a plant alive. And then I went to Buffalo's garden walk. And I mean, I've been to it plenty of times before, but this year was probably different because I'm like, I want a garden. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. Like, I made that decision. That was a decision that I made. I'm going to install a garden. It took a lot of time and planning, but that decision was made. And I said, this garden is going to grow, rather than saying, I have a black thumb. No, I'm going to start growing a garden. And it started small, you know, and now the garden has to change. Now the garden is overgrown and I don't love what it looks like, but now it's time to take the next step.
Yeah, this reminds me of James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. He talks about how our habits are a product of our identity. So if we think of like, I'm going to garden as opposed to I have a black thumb, that identity then shapes what we do, because we go, well, what would someone who gardens do? You know, and let it filter down from there. And he talks about the 2-minute rule. Like, how can you start this habit in a way that just takes 2 minutes, as opposed to this overly idealistic concept that I'm going to do this hour-long thing that I've never done before, and I'm going to keep consistent with it. It's not realistic. So yeah, I've got, there's so much more I've written down, but that's the basic concept, is like having this like block party / revitalization project and getting it funded.
Love it. And I'm an advocate.
Yeah.
I wonder if Habitat for Humanity would have a place for this here.
I'm going to write it down, because I keep writing down established organizations in the area that I think would be good fits for.
I think they would be. What do you say, Habitat for Humanity? I know they do a few community projects throughout the year, so it doesn't hurt to have another. This has me excited. I love it. Well, Grace, I think that I would like to just ask one question. We may have already touched on it, but just as a way to sign off here, I think the question that was on the tip of my tongue earlier that kept slipping away is, what would you recommend to someone who wants to start building community and maybe is in that place of fear, or what do I want to call it? I don't necessarily just want to say fear, in that place of
maybe hesitation,
apprehension. Hesitation. What do I do? Like, things have been this way for a while. I'm not sure. Stuff like that. What would you recommend to somebody who wants to start building community right where they live?
Yeah, I think starting small. So maybe it's getting to know your neighbors' names if you don't know your neighbors' names. And that, like, it's meaningful. It's a part of who we are. And if you need to write them down, right? Like, write down your neighbors' names. You can decide once that you're going to say hi when you see them out. Or you could, if you like baking delicious things, you could take a little something over and just say, hey, just happy summer. You know, it doesn't have to be an occasion. I think that's another thing, is like, don't feel like you need permission to wait, you know, like it needs to be a big occasion for you to have permission, that you can just reach out and connect, and that not everyone's going to be all about that kind of interaction. That's fine. Like, you'll find the connections where there is, kind of that alignment. And then maybe it's just,
and you'll discover that anyway once you start actually making the effort.
Yeah. And then maybe it's inviting a neighbor over to have a picnic outside, right? And maybe it's, you know, and it can feel, I think, if you're not used to hosting gatherings with food, it can feel a little tricky. So at one point, I literally made myself a list of what do I need to set out to have a group dinner. And I would tend to, if I was doing it outside, I would never do napkins. I would do my roll of paper towel on the holder, and then they weren't blowing away from the table. You know, things like, did I remember drinks? And, you know, I just made myself a list, like what's needed. But not that much is needed when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
If you have food to eat, something to drink, and a way to stay clean, like, you're good. It's really not that
what do you have to
complicated.
eat, drink, stay clean. Those three things.
Get your plastic. I would tend to do, because I have my balance of convenience versus good for the environment. So I would tend to do paper plates or bowls, but then we have a bunch of silverware. So I would just set out our silverware, and then we'd have a little bin, or if we were inside, just throw it in the sink. But just figuring out what setup works well. And again, like the regularity piece or the repeated connection piece can look a lot of different ways. It could be, there's an interesting story out there. Maybe I can find the link of this family who decided that for 1 year they were always going to have somebody over on Saturday. Again, this decide once concept.
Yep.
And it was pretty transformative. Like they had they just made that commitment, and then it didn't so much become, are we going to have someone over? Who are we going to have over? It was, we're going to have someone over. Is it going to be someone we've had over before or somebody new? Who have we been talking to that we want to get together with? And if they wanted to find a date with someone, if they weren't just offering one option, they're like, pick a Saturday, right? We'll just put you down. And so things like that so again, you don't have to commit to something like that where it's every week, to lean into the concept of regularity. Maybe once a month you're getting together with a particular neighbor you like hanging out with. Maybe it's a my kids have done like a hot chocolate stand. Maybe it's a thing where that's another story I've read, is that a neighborhood that did just hot chocolate throughout the winter, because winter can be a hard time to stay connected with our neighbors. And they
Yep.
just did every Saturday morning. They had hot chocolate in the driveway. And I think they may have
Aw.
built a little fire or something. And I was like, that's really cool. It gets us
Isn't
out of
it?
our
Yeah.
houses and connecting in a season that can be really isolating here in the north. So
Right. That
yeah.
is really important at that time. I mean,
Mhm.
maybe we're really hitting on something that maybe that's why we start to really lose patience with the winter when things just keep dragging on and
Yeah.
we have been stuck inside. And there's also, to a point, that is also part of the winter season, like a good part of it too, where you are
Right.
more inside with and this is ideal, of course, right? Because maybe not being stuck inside with the people in your home is always the greatest. Just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is that getting with other people. Yeah, we just start expanding.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really powerful.
I love it. This was absolutely uplifting. I just loved it. Loved it, loved
Awesome.
it. And I want to talk more with you about your initiative. I think that there's really something to this. And
Yeah.
I want to come over for a neighborhood dinner because I know that we don't live too far away. I might not live on your
Yeah.
street, but
Honorary neighbors.
yes.
South
Now,
Port neighbors.
how can people start building community with you virtually, Grace?
Yeah, so you can find me at pianowithgrace.com. That's where my musician and teaching stuff lives. And I'm on Instagram at piano.with.grace. So you have to put the dots in. Um, and yeah, occasionally post there with some musings or ideas from my teaching and music playing.
Beautiful. Well, Grace, thank you so much. I can't wait to talk with you again.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for spending some time with me today in this part of the world. Creating a home and a life you love is a continuous practice, and I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you. If today's episode gave you a little bit of inspiration or a practical takeaway for your own space, please take a moment to hit that follow button and leave a quick review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Take care of your space, take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.